Hello, this is going to be the first of several different videos on study skills. So we're going to look at the study skills. And the first thing we're going to look at is the study skill toolbox. In other words, what are things you can do that will benefit and help your study skills to get better and stronger, and that you could do in an ongoing basis. This is really geared toward content-dense courses, because there's a lot of things that happen in content-dense courses that you've got to learn all the content. I'm thinking particularly courses like BMS, anatomy and physiology, political science probably has a lot of vocabulary that goes with the course. Also, if you're looking at all your nursing program courses, they're very content-dense. And it's not something that you can say, well, I'll learn this for now, and then I'll throw it out of my brain, and then I'll learn this, and I'll erase that from my brain. You cannot do this in this program, because you have to be able to carry with you all that content as you move up through the material, because what you're getting at the next level refers back and is based on the level that you've learned here. And you've got to have that information readily, handily available as you're working on things. So this is why I'm talking about content-dense courses with this. Let me make sure that this is actually saying what I think it says. Yeah, that looks like a 3. It's not a backwards 3. 4. Yeah, that looks good. Just making sure my screen is saying what I want it to say. Okay, so let's get started. The first part of the content then of study skills is looking at your toolbox. So as we look at the toolbox, what are some things you can use? Okay, the first thing I'm going to put down is flashcards. So what do you use flashcards for? Okay, flashcards are often 3x5 cards. They have a limited amount of information on them, but they're readily available to be used for things in the courses. So what are things that can go on flashcards? Well, the first one would be vocabulary words. If you're looking at vocabulary words, you put the word on the front side, the meaning on the back side. So that would be vocabulary words. How about another one? How about prefixes or suffixes, which are the beginnings and endings that are added onto basic root words, okay? And then the other part would be root words. And in the medical profession, these are actually very, very key, because you'll have things in the words in the medical profession that will be a root word, and then you change the prefix, and it changes what part of it is, okay? So the prefixes can go from one word to another word to another word, which then gives you an idea of what's happening with that. Okay, so let's look at some of these things that I'm talking about. Okay, first of all, here's a couple cards that would be used for vocabulary cards. Eukaryotic and prokaryotic. Prokaryotic is a prenucleus cell. Eukaryotic is a true nucleus cell. So they're similar, and that's why the words are similar. One is pre, one is true. So that would be an example of a vocabulary word. So now let's look at some prefixes. For example, here's a prefix called meso. Okay? What does meso mean? It means middle, often used in compound words. And then we have mono or mono, which means one, okay? And then you have di, or sometimes used as diplo, which means two. And strepto, which means chain-like. And then tetra, which means 4. So what happens? Well, you can take that Meso card, and if you have Mesopotamia, that's the middle part of the Middle East. You have mesothorax. Mesothorax would be the middle part of a three-part thorax on an insect. Mesoamerica refers to what we sometimes call Central America, and many, many medical terms. So that's just an example of how that can be used, okay? So let's look at some root words that would use that. Okay, so a root word would be spiral, bacteria with one or more twist, okay? So we could probably put one of these other words with it, such as, I don't know, monospiral, I don't know. But anyhow, that would be a type of bacteria. And a cocci or coccus, which means berry shape, okay? Streptococcus, so if we had strepto, what does strepto mean? If you go back, strepto is chain-like, so you have chain-like berry shapes, which would mean something like this. Okay, they're connected together in a chain. So you can see how you take your prefix with a root word and you know what the word means if you know what the prefix and the other means, okay? So, bacillus, rod-shaped. And again, you can add a word to it and a prefix to it and change what it means. And then you've got suffixes. For example, a suffix called full means full of or characterized by. So if we took a word like shameful, it means characterized by shame. Or beautiful, characterized by beauty. Careful, harmful, words that are really common in our language, but when you put the suffix on, it changes what the word means a little bit, okay? So that's an important thing to do. How about a suffix called ness? Okay, ness. This would be a suffix attached to adjectives or participles to form abstract nouns, often exemplifying a state or a quality. So, some words that use that: goodness, darkness, kindness, preparedness. So you can see that these suffixes and prefixes are very, very useful as you're looking at building vocabulary and knowing what's going on with your vocabulary. Okay, so what's another type that we can use? Well, we can also use what are called concept cards. Concept cards are used to do what? Bring together all information on a specific topic. A topic or an item, such as the heart. If you bring together all the information on the heart, you can build a concept card or 2 or 3 concept cards on the heart, and it would help you to really be able to do things better. A concept card is a living document. It means you don't just build it one time and you're done. You just keep adding to it as you have more and more information that you can do to add to that concept card. And I actually developed a concept card for BMS called prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. You see how that's done? In this particular concept card, I use the idea that we use in math of a Venn diagram, where the middle column is where you have the things that they are the same, and then one side is where they're distinctly for prokaryotic, and then distinctly for eukaryotic. And so it gives you a really good way to organize concepts that are linked or concepts that are just very large and have a lot of different ideas that go into that concept. For example, if you build a concept card on the heart, you could start with a diagram of the heart and what each piece of the heart is. The valves and the incoming and the arteries coming in, the veins going out, and what happens. You could turn it over, you can do the circulation part of the heart. How does the blood flow? Where does it go from one place to another? And then, of course, you would have all the rest of the stuff that you can do with the heart. So that's why I say with the heart, you could probably develop 5 or 6 concept cards as you start learning more and more and more about the heart. So you can see where a concept card has a lot more information on it and goes into much more depth than an index, than a flashcard does, which is usually a one single small concept like vocabulary or something like that, whereas these are much more developed, okay? So, what's another thing that we can use as we're going through this? All right, so another area that we look at is learning techniques. We don't always realize how many learning techniques that we use as we're learning things and trying to retain them. And the beauty of these tools is that you can go over and over and over them. So, learning techniques, an acrostic. An acrostic takes a word such as grit, and grit means guts, resilience, integrity, and the last word is tenacity. So you can use a word and use the beginning letter of each one of those words to represent something else that you want somebody to know. So that would be an example of an acrostic. Songs. You can use songs to teach yourself things. And I know several. In mathematics, we use a song called the quadratic formula song. And it's x equals opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that helps you remember everything in the quadratic formula. I know somebody else who uses rap songs to help people remember things, such as the decimal in addition and subtraction. You use this little rule, you line up the dot and you give it all you got. I said line up the dot and give it all you got. Okay, so you can use rap music. I think of one of the songs that was real popular that talked about the neck bone connected to the head bone connected to the da-da, the hip bone connected to the thigh bone, and you could use that concept to work on maybe bones in the body. So there's lots of things you can do to help yourself remember things that you've never thought about before, okay? Also, another thing you can do is you can use connections to actions. Okay, connections to actions. And these are things like rhythms. Okay, hand gestures. Every time I think of something, I make a specific hand gesture. Walking. Because when you're walking, you're pulling in more oxygen, and as you pull in more oxygen, it enables you to remember things better. Okay? There. I see we were missing a little bit of the words there. Anything that will connect the content and bring it to mind, okay? I use sometimes sign language to help myself remember things. Just lots of different ways that you can go about helping yourself to remember stuff. Okay, we're going to shut this video down and we're going to continue with another video for the second part of this.